let's talk about a continuation from last week's video on tuning. And I actually had several questions come in, all asking the same thing. What sort of sound should I be looking for? Alright, so last week's video was brilliant. It got a lot of views. It's actually one of my most viewed videos, so I appreciate everybody that took the time to watch and listen to it. And I actually got a lot of good feedback and a couple of questions from it. And one of the questions I wanted to address today is what sort of sound we should be looking for and aiming for. This is a very open-ended answer that I'm going to give because it's all very subjectionable, and everybody, their hearing is different, and so we're not always going to hear the same things. We hear different frequencies and tones, and that's going to be pleasing to different people. So at the end of the day, the tuning and the sound that you're going for should be pleasing to your ear, and hopefully the judges will like it too. So I'm going to generalize this answer as best I can. So I'm going to look at several different factors that affect the overall sound of your drum. So start with, let's look at the heads. There's several different types of heads. 1-ply, 2-ply. There are heads that have their own muffling system in, and different makes of heads and different materials of the heads, and this can all go into how the sound is developed and created out of your drum. And along with that, I mentioned muffling systems on a head, or sound dampening on a head. The dampening system that you use, whether it be built into the head itself, or actually glued to the rim of your drum, the inner rim of your drum, or it could be a strip of felt across the rim of your drum. All this can play a factor into how your drum sounds. Along with that, mallets. Mallets are also another big one that can affect the sound of your drum. So play with different styles of mallets. Go out and try them. Now, a firm mallet will give you a punchier and sometimes a more ringy sound to the drum. Okay, yes, it's going to be louder too. Whereas a softer mallet will give you a warmer, quieter tone. So it all depends on what you're looking for. Obviously, a harder mallet will give you better volume to drive a band down the street, whereas a softer mallet will give you better tone and control for when you're in competition. Another thing that affects it is like your logo on your drum. Nowadays, it's not so much of a problem because a lot of them are digitally printed. But back in the day, digital printing wasn't available so much, and we used layers of vinyl on the drum head. And some of these layers of vinyl could be pretty thick, causing the drum head to not resonate as much. And there's been a couple of bass drums that I've heard 10, 15 years ago that sounded like they were hitting the drum case more than an actual drum. It was not a pleasing sound. And then finally, your tuning as well. That can play a big part of it as well. And you can have a lug that might be out of tune to the rest, causing overtoning or dual toning. One head could be slightly lower than the other, again causing that dual toning to happen. So it's important those heads are tuned together. So I want to dig a little deeper into kind of what I just talked about, and going back to heads themselves. There's 1-ply or 2-ply heads, and that's the layers of the plastic, essentially, that the heads are made from. That they can have 1-ply, which is 1 layer, or 2-ply, which is 2 layers, and they can be filled with an oil or some sort of liquid between those layers, and this can have an effect on your sound. So it's important to kind of research the type of heads that are out there, and talk to other people that have used, the different styles of heads, and listen to the sound that they get if you have the chance at Highland Games. Some heads have a built-in muffling ring on the head themselves. A lot of the heads that I use have this built-in muffling ring. You've probably seen it in my previous videos. And this helps cut down on over-resonating of the head, so you don't get that long ring drawn out. It deadens the sound just slightly. In the past, I've seen a bass drum that's had 2 different types of heads on either side. One side was a 2-ply, and the other side was a 1-ply, but it had foam hot glued to the inside of the drum shell on the rim, and wasn't a great sound. Depending on where you stood on the drum, whether you're on the head side here or the head side over here, you got different sounds, and that was kind of not bad outside. You could kind of overlook it, but when we were inside, suddenly those 2 sounds are bouncing off the ceiling and off the walls, and it was very distracting. So make sure both heads on the drum are the same and same type. It'll help with your tuning. The next thing we want to look at is the types of mallets more. So there's lots of different makers out there. I make my own mallets. I have my traditional style mallet here, nice big thick head. These are my firmer mallets. These is what I prefer to use. They're a solid core and give a good punchy response, but the outer foam is soft too, so it controls the resonance and the overtoning a little bit. Another type of mallet, they're slightly softer, and the heads are smaller. These are my flourishing mallets that I make. These are a slightly softer head because the head itself is smaller, and so this helps to match the same type of tone that you get from the larger head. Now a softer mallet in general will help keep down the volume, help keep down those overtones and the extra ringing that a large mallet can get. Then there's other mallet makers too. You're all probably very familiar with this wonderful mallet. It's got a soft outer side that helps deaden that punch a little, but then as you get deeper into the mallet head itself, it's firm again to help push a nice warm thump out of the drum head. So definitely go out and play with different types of mallets. There's so many out there. Even go look at the types of mallets that high schools and colleges use on their bass drums. You take note of how different they are. They're a very firm mallet. There is no give, there's no play to the heads. They are extremely firm. And then listen to the tone that they create and how different that is to our mallets. Then kind of want to go back to tuning. We talked about it briefly, but making sure that each lug around the head is tuned as close as possible. You're not going to get it perfect, but it's as tuned as close as possible around the drum head on each side. This ensures that you cut down on dual toning or overtoning that's happening from your drum. And there's lots of ways to go about doing that. I talked about that previously in my last video on tuning. But then you can actually go a step further and tap the individual zones with your finger or a tenor mallet and listen to see if there's any difference. And you can even tweak those just a little to make them sound more the same if there's a big difference. And do that on both heads, getting the drum as close to itself all the way around on both sides as you can. So that's kind of an idea. It really didn't give a definitive answer, and that's what my channel's not about, giving you the definitive, this is the way to do it. I'm not about that. I'm kind of giving you some ideas, ways to experiment. So I hope this has addressed that question. Please reach out to me again. I'd love getting all those questions before. Facebook, even down here in the comments, any way you want to reach out to me, I really appreciate it. So thank you all for that. More videos to come, and I'm putting together the competition for giving away a bass drum. That's still coming. As yet, I don't know what Highland Games I'm going to be at, but it's all about being at Highland Games and seeing my brand at the games. So stay tuned for a video dedicated to that giveaway. It'll explain all about how you can win your very own bass drum and a harness that goes with it. As always, I appreciate every single one of you. The piping community is a wonderful family to be a part of. I look forward to seeing you all soon, hopefully at games. Please, if you haven't already, click subscribe on my channel, like my videos. It really helps me, and it could help you win your bass drum. Thanks very much. I'll see y'all next time.